Hello and welcome to this week's BizSmart Lunch and Learn webinar. Our weekly webinars are aimed to provide advice and share knowledge amongst business owners. If you would like to keep up to date on our latest webinars, please make sure you follow us on SlideShare or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also access all of our resources for business owners by downloading the BizSmart app. Our host joining me today is BizSmart Select member Les Gutteridge from 101 System Works. Thank you, Les. Over to you.
Thank you, Caroline. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. My idea of this webinar today came about because I received an email a couple of months ago saying how much time people saved by using keyboard shortcuts rather than using the mouse to do a particular job. The claim was that over time, people can save as much as 8 working days a year by knowing keyboard shortcuts rather than mouse clicks. Makes sense because grabbing a mouse and aiming and being accurate takes about 3 seconds, where it takes less than half a second in order to do the corresponding keyboard shortcuts. So can you come back to me and tell me whether that does work for you? I'd love you to save so much time. Anyway, here we go. So what you're going to hear is some of my favorite tips and shortcuts in Word, Excel and PowerPoint. Maybe things that you didn't even know were possible. And yeah, less is more. Who knew? So I'll just run through. First of all, if you are in PowerPoint and you wish to start a presentation and you're actually in edit mode, then if you want to start that presentation from slide 1, then press F5. If you're actually working on a particular current slide and you want to test it out, then Shift F5. Shift plus F5 will actually do the job of starting from that point. So there we go. I'm actually going to run through these without much demonstration of what's happening, but I hope that's okay. You can come back to me and tell me if that's the case. Now, when you're in PowerPoint, you can actually switch a pen on look, and you can doodle. Why might you do that? Well, it's all about emphasis. You're actually trying to make a point while you're doing the presentation. So you can switch the pen on by using Control P. Showing the pen is Control P. If you want to do a doodle and you do something like that, and you want to erase the stuff, then you press E, and that will disappear. If you want to go back to the normal arrow, then Control A is for that. So Control P for the pen, Control A for the arrow, and when it's on the pen, then you can doodle, and when you want to get rid of the doodles, you press E to erase. So if you get a question in a presentation and you want to focus your attention on that person, and you want people's eyes to be taken off the presentation, if you press B, you get that effect, which is B for black. B again, and it'll actually put the screen back on for you. So something else. Down the bottom here, there's no taskbar. And if you wish to see the taskbar so that you can go out of a presentation into another, can you see that down the bottom now I've got all the applications visible that I'm using, because I can now see the taskbar. So there you go. When you're formatting, I need you to know that there are masters. And if I'm going to come out of the presentation slightly so that you can see the presentation controls PowerPoint in the background. Now down here are the view buttons. And if you do Shift and click, you actually go to a particular aspect of PowerPoint. I've just gone into the template masters screen by doing shift click on the slide button. If I do shift click on the slide sorter view, basically it'll take you to the handout screen. Anyway, I'm going to normal click now so that I'm back on the presentation, and I'm going to do shift with F5 to actually go back into the presentation to tell you things. So, what are they? Slidemasters. How do you get to them? You shift click on the button at the bottom of PowerPoint. A few things in Windows. Did you know that I need to go into the taskbar. I've just done Control T. I need you to know that this key here is actually called the Windows key. Hope you can all see the emphasis that's pointing to that key. Going back into PowerPoint now. If you do Windows with a D, you actually go to the desktop, which is great if you've got lots of things annoying you or irritating you or flummoxing you. You can actually go to the desktop and start again. So Windows and D, go to the desktop. If you wish to switch applications, then Alt and Tab is something that you ought to know about. I'm just doing Alt and Tab until I actually get this box around the application that I want to use. I'm now in Word. I'm now in the webinar application. I'm now back into Excel because I'm doing Alt with Tab, and it will actually navigate me to that place. So, if I want to go to My Computer, Windows with the E key will actually open My Computer, and then you can get to any folder that you're obviously wanting. So Windows and E. When you're selecting stuff, don't forget this Windows skill. I need to go to Outlook most probably. Bear with me while I just open Outlook. For example, if you need to, if you're planning on deleting all of these from there down to there, if you do shift and click, it will actually highlight all of them, and then you'll be able to get rid of them just by pressing delete. So click to select the first one, and shift click to select the bottom of the block, and it will get you in a position to do extra things. But we are talking speeding up here, hopefully. Right, managing applications. If you want to shut the application that you're on, I better not do it now, otherwise the presentation will shut down. But if you do Alt with F4, it will actually close that application. That is a Windows-wide keyboard stroke, and gradually you'll get going. So I'm talking navigation now in terms of any Microsoft Office product. So I'm doing Control T to see the taskbar, and I want to go into Word. If I now do Control and Home, it will actually take me to this point here, look. If I do Control and End, it's taken me to that point there, look. If you didn't know those two major keyboard navigation strokes, could you spend some time learning them, because they'll save you a lot of effort, especially if you're in the middle of maybe an email. It's very long, and you're joining a conversation. You might want to go to the very bottom of the conversation. Control and End will do the job. Where is End? It's somewhere about here on your keyboard. Control and Home will take you to the beginning of the document. Selecting. I've just talked about using the shift in order to do particular stuff. But if you know that a particular sequence will navigate you somewhere, then what you need to know is that if you hold the shift down while you're doing that navigation, then it will actually highlight. So I'm putting the shift down now, and I'm just using the basic arrow keys in order to continue the highlighting. This will happen in any application. So it's the shift key that does the gluing to the beginning, if you like, while you navigate with the normal navigation keys. If you do shift with control end that I talked about a second ago, it will actually take you to the end of the document. Now, I must have actually typed something in that cell in the past because Excel thinks that that is the end of the document. It actually sets up a flag, as a matter of fact. But if I click here and I want to go to the beginning and highlight to the beginning, I'm doing shift with control home, and it will actually do the job for you. So, selecting skills. I'm not going to talk about, I'm not going to demo these, but I'm just going to run them past you. By the way, all of these keyboard shortcuts I'll send you as a document after the event. So it is quite good to write things down as I'm going through them, but just remember I'll be sending them to you. So look, if you want to start a new piece of paper in Excel, or if you want to start a new piece of paper in Word, Control N will start a new document. If you want to open a document, it's Control O. If you want to close a document, it's not Control C because that's something else, but it is Control W. Control W is W for window, so you'll be shutting that window. If you want to go to the print dialog, then please think about doing Control P. I'm just going to do that one. I'm going into Excel. So I'm doing Control P now because it actually shows me the print preview and the printing setup in Excel. So there we go. Saving a document. Please regularly save your documents every 5 minutes or so, and all you need to do is, once it's got a name, press Control S. I've been there and done that. You go very cold when you lose 2 hours work because something happens and you've been a nana and you haven't been saving as you've been going on. So Control S. Correcting, Control Z. If you want to undo something, if you want to redo something, it's Control Y. Those are the keyboard equivalents of using these two buttons up here. You can see as I hover over that button, it does say Control Z and it does say Control Y for undo and redo. It's actually, think about the time taken for me to grab the mouse now, move up to there and click that button, whereas I'm just doing Control Z. Oh, Control Z is so much faster. Right, in Excel now. Please, please, please always put a slash between a date. If you don't, then you lose all the mathematical capability of a date. If you put a dot, if you're in the habit of doing 12.5.2018, then you're not doing yourself any favours. But so that's me being on my soapbox banging out about dates. But this is quite useful. If you're in the habit of typing in today's date when you're actually doing some sort of follow-up, if you do Control and semicolon, it'll actually fetch today's date from the system clock and put that in for you. It's a solid date, so if I open this file tomorrow, it'll still say the 19th of June. So Control and semicolon, time saving. You don't have to look at your diary to find out what the date is. That's provided your clock's not stopped. So date formats. Actually, in Excel, there's some clever things you can do with dates, so bear with me. I've got to find this one. You see this column here, I've formatted that column, and I haven't actually typed in the word Friday or Thursday or Saturday. All I've done is I've set behind that column some special codes. Now, I'm right-clicking and I'm going to format the cells. And on the custom tab here, you can see the code that the presentation code that I've actually set up in order to present those dates. If you use 4Ds, it'll give you the day name in full. If you use 3Ds, can you see the effect it has on this sample? If you use 3Ds, it'll actually give you the day abbreviation. There is the month in full because there's 4 M's there in my code. If I actually knock it down to 3Ds, it'll be the date in the month in abbreviation. I'm now going to click OK, and all of those have adjusted to the code that I've set up behind it. It's well worth having a little play with those. So you either use D's, M's and Y's in order to set up the code. I'm not explaining it in full, but I will actually send you some information about that. So what else? Yeah, just a moment ago, I went into format the cells by right-clicking and doing format cells, but in actuality, I remember to do that because I'm doing this presentation. But when I'm working myself, I actually do control with 1. And it actually takes me to the format cells box straight away. And I always rely on the format cells box rather than faffing about with all these formatting buttons up the top, for the simple reason that everything's available up here. So you can alter the alignments and the borders and the fill colors and whatever, and the fonts. Goodness knows what's available on there. So control with 1 will actually open the format cells box in Excel. I've talked about this really, but here is selecting data, but here is something that you may not know about selecting visible cells. To do this, I need to go to a particular tab in this here. I'm going to switch on the filtering, and I'm actually going to select all the ones with CH in. Now, if I do that, believe it or not, although I've hidden some of the cells behind, because I've gone from row 5 to row 9 of 99, and then there are gaps. If I only want to select the visible cells, if you do Alt with semicolon, can you see there are the actual selection has changed somewhat? If I now do Control semicolon again, what that means is that the cells between row 5 and row 999 are not selected. And so therefore, if I press the delete key, which is a bit stupid, but and then I clear the selection so that I can see, I've cleared out a lot of cells in between. I'm going to go back and undo. And I'm going to clear that selection, and you can see that there are more pieces of data in there than there were before. So Alt with semicolon will, in Excel, will select only the visible cells if you've hidden some. If you want to duplicate things, then there are 2 keyboard control keys that will do the job. So for example, if I wanted to, for some silly reason, if I wanted to duplicate that row, Control R will do the job. However, if I want to duplicate that column, Control D will do the job. I'm doing Control Z now. So Control R to duplicate right, Control D to duplicate down. And by the way, if you've got a graphic in Excel and you click I'm just going to insert a quick shape. Let's say you tart that, the bad word, tart it up. If you format that shape and you spent a long time over it and you want a second one exactly that formatting, then if you select the first one and do Control D, it will actually create a duplicate of that particular one. So Control D is duplicate. If you know about summing, let me just go back to here. Let me just find one. Number functions. You may well know that clicking the auto sum button will actually put in summations there, but the keyboard shortcut for that, and I use it loads, is to do Alt with equals. Look, if I highlight these cells, which is where the totals are going to go, I'm now doing Alt and equals, and it's actually putting the totals in for those sums down there. Alt and equals, worth its weight in gold as far as I'm concerned. Formulas. I don't know whether you know what I mean by an absolute reference, but an absolute reference is when you do a stay with or you lock a cell so that you're always pointing to that cell. I'm just going to find the correct tab with absolute references on. So I'm going to do a formula to work out the VAT on these XVAT figures. I've just done the formula with the multiplication in, but C5 needs to be locked so that it is always used in all of the subsequent rows. And if you press F4 at that point, having just put it in the formula, can you see that the dollars are now in place? And those dollars mean fix and always use C5 at that part of the calculation. I'm now using a keyboard press that I'll explain in a moment, but I'm just going to run that down. And I did that with double clicking on the fill handle. I don't know whether that's something you do know, but you do now. Double click down and you'll replicate the formulas. Now, this is probably, as far as Excel is concerned, as far as Excel formulas is concerned, I'm just about to tell you the golden rule of the day. This key, its proper name is the back apostrophe key. And in Excel, it's got a wonderful use. Because if you do Control and that key, you swap over from normal display into formula display. And the point is, you can now double check your working, that you haven't made any boo-boos along the way. So you're actually auditing the work that you've done so that you are correct. I'll just go on to another sheet with more formulas on. It's an on-off switch, so Control and the back apostrophe will do the job. Range names. A range name is a useful device. In this spreadsheet that I'm using, I've set up some range names. They actually drop down from this box here. And a range name is actually like a bookmark. So if I click north, it will actually take me off this spreadsheet onto another spreadsheet. And it's taken me on to this tab here. If I do this one, it's now taken me onto this auditing spreadsheet. How do you set up a name is what you need to know. So look, I'm going to set up a name here. I want that one to be always known as the VAT rate box. It's got an address, it's H3, it's got a value inside, which is 20%, but it can also have a name. And I'm just going to click in that box, and I'm going to overtype the name. You can't have any spaces in that name though. I'm pressing enter now for it to take effect. I'm coming off here, I've gone onto a different spreadsheet. I'm clicking this down, VAT rate is now in the list. It's taken me to there as a bookmark. But not only can you use it as a bookmark, you can use it inside formulas. So if I put in a new, insert a new column there, and I want to find out the VAT on all of these figures, here we go. It's equal to this, multiply by, and I'm starting to type VAT. And all of a sudden it picks up the name that's that I've just set up. And I'm now pressing the tab key for it to go into the formula. And I'm now pressing enter for it to take effect. And I'm now double clicking that down. If I audit those formulas, you can see that all of them now say equals E6 multiplied by VAT rate. And that VAT rate is you telling Excel to look over here at cell I2, I3 is it? Cell I3, and get the fact that it's 20%. If I change that to 22.5%, it's actually rounded to no places of decimals. So I'll just put another place of decimals on there. So it's got 22.5% in there, and this is still looking at that cell in order to get its 22.5%, in order to get the VAT rate. I've got 2 more minutes. Tempus fugit, everybody. Something about lists in Excel. There are 3 golden rules. Number 1, please don't have any totally empty rows in that list, because if you do that, you'll make more than one list. Make sure that there are headings so that the title row is obvious. And finally, you actually only need to click onto one cell. Let me just tell you what I mean by all of that. So I'm going on to the lists. Where is it? Here. So I'm just going to deactivate the filtering. And notice what I did was I only clicked on one cell. And as soon as I click that button, Excel figures out where the table is lying on the spreadsheet, sends out feelers in all directions, and it decides that all of this down to row 1500, I think it is the table, that is the list that's going to be filtered if necessary. Similarly, if I take the filter away and I talk about sorting, I'm only going to click on there, but I'm now going to sort that according to department, last name, and first name. But notice what's happened in the background. I started here, but Excel has sent its feelers out in all directions to find out the extent of the list. It's decided that my list has got headers, it's got a title row, and if I click OK, it will ignore the top row, just filter the rest according to department, last name, and first name. And I know it's done the job because these numbers are not in consecutive order. If I click that button, again, I've only clicked one cell in that column, but I click this button here and it's put the list back in order according to that column. But I only started on one cell. Well, everybody, it's come to the end of our half an hour, and it's gone quicker than even I imagined. I've got about I did call this webinar 50 Shades of Microsoft Office because I actually put together loads and loads of tips. I knew I wouldn't get through them all because I've done this sort of thing before, but I had loads available to me so that I could, you know, providing I didn't verbalise too much, then I'll get through more and more. Anyway, hope it was useful to you, and I hope you've got at least one golden nugget that you're going to take away. I'm just going to go to the end of my presentation. You can see here they all are. Basically, I'd like you to do this for me. Please tell me how you got on today. Send me an email to the email address up above here. Just tell me 2 or 3 that you thought were dead useful to you. And also, I'm sure BizSmart will ask me to do some more. So if there are other Microsoft Office webinars that you might like to hear about, then let me know.
Perfect. As usual, Les.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great. But before we close, just a quick reminder that if you'd like to keep up to date on our latest webinars, please make sure you follow us on SlideShare or subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also access all of our resources for business owners by downloading the BizSmart app. That's the end of today's webinar. Thank you again, Les, and we hope you can join us again very soon.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.